This time on episode 358 of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we discussed Daredevil Season 3, Episode 11, Reunion, and Season 3, Episode 12, One Last Shot.
I'm David S. Dawson from the Intellectual Podcast, a show that spotlights creatives from all walks of life, part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other incredibly geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
You have been granted clearance by director Alfonso Mack Mackenzie. Stand by for a S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. director.
Now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Agent Lauren.
I'm Agent Michelle.
And I'm producer of the show, SP. Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a Marvel Comic Universe fan show. The show is recorded on Thursday, January 7th, 2020, live from the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. studios and broadcast New York-wide via www.geeks.live. Come and join our live chat as we record. Ladies, happy National Bobblehead Day.
Yay! For those of you who are not watching our recording, I brought out my bobblehead of Baby Yoda, little Grubhub.
Oh, yeah, with the little cup. He's got his little cup of bone soup.
Yes.
This is our first recording, I think, that we've had since the finale of Mandalorian Season 2. Did you both get to watch it?
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
I'm so excited. Just so good. So good.
It was a great episode. I have some predestiny issues that I have to work through, but it was a great episode. But National Bobblehead Day is this whole thing, and I didn't even realize there is a National Bobblehead Museum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Huh.
Well, Milwaukee's got to have more than beer and cheese.
Right.
Oh, beer and cheese.
Yes. I think it has something to do with the baseball team there. But for those that don't know, my son just moved to Wisconsin. He's got a job doing stuff in Wisconsin, and we might talk about that in the post-credit scenes. And there was a lot of cheese and beer and root beer and barbecue, believe it or not. So they're big into their meats and cheese in Wisconsin. But happy Bobblehead Day. That was a great little... I do have some bobbleheads. I just didn't bring them down. Oh, gosh. I've got those little mini Pop Funko bobbleheads. Yeah. They're not within arm's reach, though. So, oh, well. But yes, I have some bobbleheads. I'm not a big bobblehead collector. I know some people are. And we can't forget that our very own Daisy Johnson had a bobblehead on her dashboard.
That's true.
All right, so enough bobblehead talk for the day, but this is National Bobblehead Day, January 7th, every year. To move on with the rest of the show now, though, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the Marvel Cinematic and comic book universes.
Because of artwork and omelets.
If you'd like to talk to us about artwork and or omelets, you can find us at our website, legendsofshield.com.
You can leave us a voicemail, 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871.
You can find us on Facebook at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Podcast.
Hey, we're on Twitter at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You can see our lovely faces and a Baby Yoda bobblehead on YouTube at youtube.com/GonnaGeek.
You can tell your Amazon device to enable Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. skill.
You can join our Discord server at GonnaGeek.com/Discord.
And remember, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a proud member of the GonnaGeek.com network.
There has been a teaser out now on the GonnaGeek.com network. There is a show that is coming back, but I will wait to fully announce that until it actually does. But we're really excited to bring this show back on the network. And with that tease, which you can find, by the way, at GonnaGeek.com, with that tease, it is now time for us to have our penultimate episode on Daredevil. Not just the season, but the series. Maybe not with the character, because we've discussed, but are you ladies ready for this?
So ready.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Daredevil Season 3 was published to Netflix October 19th, 2018. We are covering episode 11 and 12. Like I said, this is our penultimate episode on Daredevil. Lauren, why don't you run down the creative team for the first episode that we're covering today, Reunion.
Reunion was directed by Jet Wilkinson, who has 28 directing credits starting in 2008, with 9 of All Saints, 120 of Home and Away, which is an Australian soap opera, so kind of figures for the large number. 1 of American Gothic, 1 of Jessica Jones, 5 of How to Get Away with Murder, 1 of Daredevil, 2 of The Punisher, 2 of Warrior Nun, and 1 of Halo, which I forgot that series was happening. The episode was written by Jim Dunn, who has 9 writing credits starting in 2004, with 2 of The Dead Zone, I used to love that show, 2 of Crisis, 11 of Haven, 2 of Hand of God, and 2 of Daredevil. Oh, and there was another writer on it, I see, Dara Resnik, who also has 11 writing credits starting in 2007, with 2 of Pushing Daisies, another fantastic show, everyone watch it, 2 of Mistresses, 5 of Castle, 2 of Daredevil, and 2 of Home Before Dark.
Oh man, I was watching the credits as I was on the treadmill. I saw Jet Wilkinson's name come across, and I was like, ooh, I know this is going to be a good one because we've talked about Jet Wilkinson before on the show. So Michelle, the second episode that we watched today was One Last Shot. Why don't you run down the creative team for that episode?
This episode is directed by Phil Abraham, has 42 directing credits starting in 2007, including 1 of The Sopranos, 2 Sons of Anarchy, 1 of The Good Wife, 4 of The Killing, 1 episode of Masters of Sex, 15 Mad Men, 1 Luke Cage, 1 of The Defenders, 5 Daredevil, 3 Glow, and 15 of Most Dangerous Game. This episode was written by Sam Ernst, who has 9 writing credits starting in 2004, 2 of The Dead Zone, 2 Crisis, 11 Haven, 2 Hand of God, and 2 Daredevil.
And again, with this episode, we have a rarity because there were only 8 episodes ever made of The Defenders, and Phil Abraham was one of the directors of one of those 8. So he had a 1 in 8 shot, and that's awesome that we get him again with this. By the way, there was multiple showrunners for Daredevil. Season 3 showrunner was Erik Oleson. We talked about that before. Stephen S. DeKnight was season 1, and Doug Petrie and Marco Ramirez were the season 2 co-showrunners. So the show has actually had 3 seasons and 4 showrunners, although 2 were co-showrunners, so it wasn't like they switched in the middle of the season, and that is never a good thing, so I'm glad that didn't happen. All right, ladies, Reunion and One Last Shot. I'm going to be a rarity here. I'm going to ask which one of you wants to start with the meaning behind Reunion. So which one? Come on, give me a hint. Which one wants to start?
Sure.
Okay, Lauren, you're up.
Okay. Just a warning. I watched these episodes back to back, so I might have them a little muddled in my head. But Reunion has Vanessa and Fisk reuniting. It has all 3 of them, Foggy, Karen, and Matt, agreeing to work together. And I know there's other stuff there.
All right, Michelle, what did you think? Does she have it with Reunion?
Yeah, we get our core team back. We get our team back together. It's about time that we do. And yeah.
My favorite, I did like the team Daredevil, Nelson and Murdoch. I did like the team Daredevil, Nelson and Murdoch sort of look. But my favorite one was when Karen caught her editor out of the hot dog cart. That was my favorite because it was like, oh, and then he didn't chastise her or anything.
No, he's like, I'm still mad at you. But it's like, when somebody that you love did something, they're like, oh, I'm mad at you, but I'm so glad you're here, that sort of thing. It's like that. He is basically her family now.
Yeah, we have Detective Mahoney back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he had a big role in the episode, so that was good. Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of reunion. The other one was One Last Shot. Michelle, you get first dibs at this one.
Foggy wanted the system to work. And for me, I think this was the one last shot to get Fisk legally. As we saw with the grand jury, he had somebody in there who knew all of their addresses. So that didn't work out. But it really was that, Matt at the end says, I know we're going to talk about it more. We did it your way and it didn't work. And well, also at the end, Dex takes that one shot and ends Nadim's life. So one last shot there.
I was wondering, do we think that is Bullseye's last shot, or are we going to get some more shooting next time?
I don't know.
Yeah. It could be. I have no idea. But Nadim took his last shot of testifying and tried to redeem himself and that sort of thing. So, yeah, lots of analogies that you could put there, as well as Vanessa comes back and that whole storyline. We'll get into it.
Ooh.
These 2 episodes are just packed full of stuff. And I'm kind of glad that we've taken basically a month off. I don't know the exact weekage involved. It was at least 3 weeks involved because of the holidays, to really take and internalize the series up to that point and then watch these 2, because these are heavy episodes. This whole season is just full of heavy episodes. Even the slow parts, the one-on-one character dialogue parts, are really impactful. So you're watching it, and normally I'd be like, okay, can I fast forward through this? And rats, it's Netflix. I can't do it unless I'm on a computer and I use a specialized plugin to do it. But this, you just kind of want to absorb it, take it in, just because it's got that gravitas to it.
Yeah, this season has so few wasted moments.
All the dialogue has been spot on. It's been great. And I have to add right here before we go any further that I was not right 2 weeks ago, or whenever we recorded 2 times ago, that I was going to say the next episode is when Matt confronts his mother, Sister Maggie. That didn't happen the next episode, but I said for sure it's going to be by the end of the next episode. It wasn't. It took until episode 11 for them to actually see each other, and they did not have a confrontation.
That's another reunion.
There you go. All right. So with these episodes, one of the things that I want to talk about, we already touched upon it, was that all of the teen Daredevil truths come out between Karen, Foggy, and Matt. Everything's laid on the table. Karen has poured out her soul of what happened with her brother. Matt has obviously poured out his soul, and Foggy is saying, hey, look, my family is now involved in this. And it's kind of Foggy doesn't have the deep, dark secret, but he's now got to wiggle out of it, and it's very uncomfortable for him. I think he's in the best position of all 3 of them, to be honest with you, but all their truths come out and lays on the table. So nobody's hiding anything anymore, and they want to work together, which is just a great moment. And it doesn't last long because Karen runs out, but they're all involved.
I'd in some ways argue that Foggy has the most to lose, because you have Matt, who's deliberately tried to cut out the personal influences, like the close people in his life. You have Karen, whose father kicked her out, and basically all she has is them and the people at her work, and they're not talking to her right now. And then you have Foggy, who has a successful social life, has these bigger goals, bigger public-facing goals, and who is still, if not necessarily on the best terms with his family, still sees them regularly. So, yeah, in some ways, as we see with Nadim, once you lose the people who are close to you, the people who mean the world to you, like, where do you go from there?
And I feel for Foggy. It's not like Foggy became a lawyer and told his family, peace out, I'm gone. I mean, he obviously still has a relationship, and he's a lawyer. And why didn't his brother call up his lawyer brother and go, hey, I got this loan offer. Can you proofread it for me? The fact that his brother just blames him for that. And that I think is too much. Foggy should not be blamed for all of that.
I agree. There's also, I've noticed, okay, there's a thing that happens in some communities, like some working class communities, where if you try too hard, if you try to excel, it's like they got to chop you down. And it's a whole lot of, you think you're better than us? And I feel like that's kind of the situation with Foggy and his family. There's very much the sense of what our lifestyle isn't good enough for you. And with his brother, you have that plus the sibling dynamic. I've been thinking a lot lately about my relationship with my own little sister and about just the amount of pride and the amount of grudges that can go into a sibling relationship. It's ugly when that happens. And as we see here, it can lead to some really dumb decisions in the name of pride.
Yeah, Michelle, you were saying it was one thing that went too far with with Foggy's brother. I think this season has a few stories that went a little bit too far in terms of just getting the plot out there. And now that we're towards the end of the season, you can kind of see why they did it. But one of the things that I thought was a little bit too far was Nadim, and we'll talk about Nadim in a holistic fashion later, but Nadim and his relationship with his wife and how that got strained over time, and she just wasn't willing to listen to him. It was all about the truth and everything. Once we get here, you kind of see why they did that to create that separation, but it was a little bit of a stretch at the time. It was a lot of a stretch at the time. And then, of course, Matt and his relationship with his parents and how he blamed the priest and everything, which is just classic Matt. But I think it's a story that is believable, but maybe a bridge too far and maybe a little bit of a writer's trope to get there. Fortunately, the producers and the writers are able to bring all these stories together to create these long story arcs throughout the 13 episodes, 12 that we've seen so far, and get something out of it. But I would agree that there were a couple of things that I was taken out of the story a little bit, like, I don't really think that would happen, but it did. So the other thing with Foggy is he does create a avenue to pull out of the election and thus saving himself in front of maybe his family wouldn't be as targeted, and that he would not be held accountable by Fisk anymore in order, and bring Fisk down all at the same time. So I think he has a little stroke of genius there with his plan. And I do like that. Foggy always comes up with the kind of cool things, and he never likes to rush into anything, which is kind of Karen and Matt's thing that you could argue the whole season happens because the two of them run off and do their own thing. And Karen, let's move on to Karen. She goes public with her accusation with the help of her editor, and that unfortunately goes awry, but at least I think that was a good multi-prong attack against Fisk to have the Nadim testimony, Karen's press conference, if you will, on the stairs, and also her going through kind of a redemption to her like she can't be held accountable for things ever, and she has those multiple conversations with Matt. So I think, especially with what we watched with Karen last time, this was a good redeeming episode, even though she didn't have a lot of camera time this episode.
You see that with her and Nadim. They're two people who have done wrong in their pasts. Maybe they did it with the best of intentions. It still didn't work out for them or the people that they loved. And with both of them this episode, there is an attempt to put things right. They're both putting their lives and reputations on the line. In a just world, it would have gone great. Unfortunately, Fisk is Fisk, and the grand jury is basically blackmailed into not indicting. Not only is Nadim kind of shamed with that and put back in the open, but Karen is made to look like a liar. So again, it's they're trying and they just keep getting knocked back down.
So, Michelle, what did you think about Karen and her continued story arc right here?
I liked what she said to Matt about how killing someone, it does change who you are, because Karen, she still blames herself for her brother's death, which, yes, driving under the influence, and everything, and driving angry. We talked about that. So she did have a part, in her brother's death. But then killing Wesley, she came clean about that. And she's right. When you do something like that, it can't be undone, and it does change who you are fundamentally. And it's interesting for her to be this. I don't know if I really want to say it's interesting that she's a voice of reason for Matt in this situation.
You're kind of a voice of reason for each other in the second episode. And also, I talked about it before. Sister Maggie, she is used in the first episode, at least. She sees Dex exiting the church, and it's dark, but I was under the impression that she knew that it wasn't Matt that was in the suit. I mean, didn't she have a discussion with Matt a couple episodes ago that he mentioned that somebody was out there using his suit and stuff like that? So I think she knew not to approach him and help him. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
I believe that's correct.
And she also knows Matt's build, because Matt is a different build than Dex.
So one thing I noticed this episode that I really, really liked is you kind of, okay, I know it's shown before, but it just really struck me this episode. The suit looks ill-fitting on Dex. Like, it's not quite right. It's like a little baggier, I think.
I was going to say he's also the lankier, taller brother, I thought, but yeah, you're right. It's not complete fit for him. Although, if you just saw him alone, you wouldn't really notice.
Well, yeah, but we've had how many hours of watching Matt in that suit now?
Well, if you count all the fights, yeah, it's out. Hallway fights that go 3-4 hours. Yeah, prison fights that go half a day. Sort of thing. She also, Sister Maggie, helps Karen and Matt get away. She helps Matt get away. She helps Karen get into protective custody with the New York police and not the feds. I don't know if we're going to see Sister Maggie again. I assume we are. I assume we're going to get a final scene between Maggie and Matt, but I don't know when that'll be in the episode. If it'll be earlier in the episode, or if it'll be later in the episode, I'm not sure. But I think we're going to get that final scene between Maggie and Matt. And I don't know if Maggie ends up dying because of it or not. I would hope that the showrunners would want her to stick around for a possible season 4 when they were writing it, but who knows? Agent Nadim, his arc comes to an end. The season began with Agent Nadim. Remember the wonderful little feint that they did trying to show us that Nadim was actually a bad guy, and it turned out he was an FBI agent. And that started his whole story arc, especially with his sister and the medical coverage and stuff like that. But he gets duped into doing some very bad things in order to try to save his family. Like I said, I think it was a step too far to say his wife wasn't even going to be interested in talking to him about what his rationale was to everything. She just stood firm on the lying. Okay, it's a one-issue thing. But he decides to take a stand in the church and save Karen. And from that point on, you knew he wasn't going to last very much longer. You knew his time under Fisk was going to be done. He actually survives long enough for Matt to come save him and then extend the olive branch for him to redeem himself to testify against Fisk. They have to fight to get there to the special grand jury that had been convened for this testimony. There was a big fight in getting him there. The fight was actually pretty cool where Matt was telling him where to shoot. And it was kind of a little bit of funny because Matt's pointing right to the side of the van and say, shoot here. And then the gunshots are like to the left about a foot, but he still hits the guy. Whatever.
Yeah.
It was still a good fight with those two, both helping each other and individually pushing their way forward.
And you also have Matt basically acting more helpless than he really is to, keep selling that image of himself in case anybody is suddenly questioning, like, but wait a minute. I mean, you never know what's going to end up filmed on a cell phone these days.
Matt helpless in the bus. That was there's some good acting there. Help! Oh, what's going on?
Whack.
And
To go back, I thought it was interesting that the van they took was called Five Senses Communication.
Yes. Yeah, I laughed. They knew what they were doing there.
So they get there and then Nadim testifies, but then the jury is already rigged by the fixer. Felix Manning had already gotten to one of the jurors and made him memorize the addresses of all the jurors. And so, of course, they didn't convict him. And then later on, he gets away from Foggy, goes home, and he chooses where he knows he's going to die. And he's like, I don't want to die in the house because, that my family's got to live in the house. I'm just going to stand out here, and you're going to have to kill me here in the, bury me in the pool, which is, ironic because that's kind of where it really gets him, because he was pushing forward, not only with getting out of debt from the medical stuff, but he wanted to give Sammy a pool because, that was a thing. And so he ends up dying in the pool. Kind of ironic. And unfortunately for poor little Sammy, then, he'll probably never get to swim in that pool. But anyway.
Yeah.
So Nadim had a sorry arc, but he did, I think, in the end, redeem himself because he said he was going to even take the punishment. He's like, yes, I did the crime. I'll do the time. So it wasn't the entire penalty. It wasn't the 5 years per felony. It was 5 years total, but it was still 5 years. And as an FBI agent in prison, I don't know how long he was going to last anyway.
Okay, we haven't gotten to Fisk and Vanessa yet, but again, after I finished watching and just over the course of the day, we've always made the comparison between Daredevil and Kingpin, but you can also add Agent Nadim in there this season. This past season has been all about communication and sharing things with the people you love. With Matt, we see him with all three characters, Matt, Nadim, Wilson, Fisk. You see them hiding what they think is sordid business from the people they love, despite the people they love constantly being like, but I want to know. Don't lie to me. I want to be a part of your life. I want to help, whatever. With Matt, we see the result where, yeah, okay, he does start opening up to his friends again, and they come back and they help him. With Nadim, he continues to hide it from his wife, and that ends up causing the end of their relationship, or would have caused the end of their relationship if, it had gone on a few more months and all of that. And then Fisk is like, again, the dark version of Matt. He lets Vanessa in, and we find out she's pretty ruthless, and yeah.
I was impressed at Vanessa, and I was wondering, I meant to go back and check, is this the same actor?
Yes.
Okay. So I was pretty impressed where she came in, and you could tell that there was distance where she went upstairs to basically go to sleep, and Fisk had to sleep on the couch. Maybe he never slept at all. I don't know. But he's trying, and you can tell that she's kind of trying, but there's this definite distance between the two of them. And we find out that really with Vanessa, the distance was that Fisk had been walling off that part of his life to her to protect her, right? But no, she wants all of Fisk. She's seen Fisk. She knows what Fisk is capable of. She wants all in. Fisk gets her all in, and she actually makes the call to kill Nadim. And you could just tell the smile on Fisk's face. He was so proud of her.
Was that an actual smile? When you go back, it's not a beaming look. because what gets me is I think with Fisk, I think Fisk has this image of Vanessa. I think Vanessa was to him supposed to represent that serene, I want to help people, good, quote unquote, good side, the light side of him. She was love and such. And he didn't want to be dark stuff, but he always felt like pressured into, well, I'm not getting this peaceful path that I want. So please give me your jacket so I could beat you to death with my fist because, I don't know how to appropriately, get my anger out. But now she is there with him. She's in the chair. She makes the call. And I don't know if Kingpin wants a Queenpin. I really think he wanted her to represent the life he wanted after he didn't have to do crime anymore. I think Fisk wanted to get to a point where this one last job and I'm fine. This one last thing, I'm not going to get indicted. So now I'm going to clear up these last few ends and I'm going to be Wilson Fisk with this beautiful woman who represents all the goodness in my life. And he actually goes to the woman. We find out who owns the painting, hears her story. He says, I think Vanessa would not want me to take this from you. And then we find out Dex goes to get that painting. He gets it in there. Vanessa sees the blood on the corner and she's like fine with it. And she's actually happy that the painting is there. And I don't think Fisk is not as happy that Vanessa sat in that chair and made that call as you think.
I agree with Michelle. So for the whole episode, like just the whole time since she came back, I thought that Vanessa was getting ready to break up with him. Like Michelle said, there was that distance. She kept remarking his stuff, his men. And again, when that painting with oh my God, Dex either beat up or killed a Holocaust survivor. When she didn't seem to have any reaction to it, I was like, wait. And then was I don't want to be another thing on display. I want to be part of this. And I think to Fisk, that's the equivalent of the blood being right there in the middle of the rabbit in a snowstorm painting. Yeah, like Michelle said, he has this idealized vision. All the paintings he collects, the airs that he puts on, it's all to kind of, it's all aspirational. It's trying to put as much distance between himself now and the scared, poor kid he used to be. And to not have that pure woman there that he can perform for in a lot of ways. Yeah, I think things are going to be changed, and not in the, hey, let's be partners together way.
Aside from not succeeding, like with Matt and with Karen, when has Dex not tried to kill somebody? He's never like subdued somebody. He's always tried to kill them straight out. So I think the Holocaust survivor is not with us anymore, unfortunately, which, wow, that's horrific in of itself.
Yes.
As you were pointing out, and he's quite frankly, he's out of control because he's got this buzzing now going on in the background. When he's going out of control, you could just hear it rising up. You hear the confusion, the anger, the frustration just rising up, the mental instability rising up in it. And he's got to yell or kill something when that happens. You could even see it at the church when he shows up and he tries to control the situation and say that Daredevil's inside there. I've seen him go inside there. And then Sister Maggie's like, no, I saw Daredevil leave. He's not in there. And he's like, well, I saw him go back in. You could just tell that he was a little bit out of control and unbelievable, quite frankly, at that point. But he is off the rails. He's still there. Vanessa's using him now to kill Nadim. He's around. I'm wondering how this next episode is going to go. Are we going to see the end of Dex? I don't think so. Are we going to see the end of Fisk? I don't, but this has to be concluded somehow. We might not get the complete conclusion version, but within one episode, we got to get to the point where these storylines get to a point where they can stop.
With regards to that buzzing, I don't think this season, I think sound has come back as kind of an important element. Remember back in season 1, it was, the sound design there was very pivotal in putting us in Daredevil's shoes. And that kind of went away for season 2. I don't think it was really at all present in Defenders. But here, the past couple episodes, we see, Father Lantom and Karen whispering because they know he can hear them. And then here with the buzzing, again, it kind of brought back that audible clue to what's going on. And it was, I think, an interesting way to put you in the mindset of someone who's under extreme stress. Just that feeling of kind of pressure building up. Here they did it with kind of a not quite whistling tea kettle, but enough to kind of remind you of that.
Again, I'm wondering where this is going to go. Michelle, do you have any pontifications on where you think this is going to end up next episode?
I think it's going to end up. I don't think Fisk is going to get killed. I don't think it's going to. I think this is going to have the type of ending where the writers were expecting a season 4. I think that's what it really feels like to me, that this is like the end of, like, we're going to get Matt Matt's at a low point technically. And I really think that's where this is kind of going to end. I don't think we're going to get a nice, satisfying ending. Luke Cage season 2 ended in a way that tied up, it tied up a few things, and we can see Luke go in this sort of different direction. With this, it might end up where, I don't know if truce is the right word. Matt might be cleared. The name of Daredevil might be cleared, but Matt, yeah, I don't think it's going to be a nice, happy ending. I just think it's going to be one of those ones where everything's kind of neutral, and it was going to be season 4.
I would completely agree with, I don't think any of these production teams knew that they were getting canceled when they were doing their last seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the writing was on the wall as things started to get canceled. They were like, yeah, no, this is not going to go well with us anymore. And we've done tons of news items on and speculation on why that happened, whatever. And like I said at the beginning of the show, Daredevil has been rumored to be in the next Spider-Man movie. No confirmation on that, but it's rumored, and I could see that going forward with the character. It's kind of along the lines of, on the Marvel side with, what's his name? Ryan Reynolds.
Deadpool.
Deadpool. Yeah, Deadpool. I kept saying Daredevil, and I knew that wasn't right. But yeah, kind of along the lines of Deadpool. Yeah, that's what I think. Mm-hmm. Any last words, Lauren?
Looking forward to the finale.
Michelle?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well, especially the Vanessa Wilson dynamic. I want to see how that plays out next episode.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah, and next episode will be our finale of Daredevil. After that, we just have 2 more seasons of the Netflix Defenders series. We've got Punisher season 2, and we've got Jessica Jones season 3, and that will be it. But after we finish this, we get the wonderful little gift of WandaVision. So we're not going to go straight into Punisher. We're going to talk about WandaVision when it comes out. So more news on that. later. In the meantime, before next time we talk about a new napkin, we have some news items. So you ready for some news?
Yay!
Yeah, here we go.
What news do we have?
Okay, so speaking of WandaVision, this past week there was, I think it actually just the past couple of days, there's been a new teaser, just something to tide you over until it actually premieres. And at first, when they announced the show, I was like, okay, whatever. And now I'm more excited with every teaser I see. Have either of you seen this newest one yet?
Are you talking about WandaVision?
Yes.
I've only seen the one where she starts out as the 50s black and white housewife.
Yeah, this one starts out that way too. There's a little bit more footage. It's fun to see the callbacks to old TV shows, like the combo of like the Dick Van Dyke Show and Bewitched, then the very Brady Bunch thing and the Who's the Boss looking thing. Yeah, I'm really excited because I grew up watching like the Dick Van Dyke Show and Bewitched on Nick at Night and yeah, all of those shows. So I'm very excited.
Whenever I think of WandaVision, I think of the fact that we saw them together, but we didn't really see a lot of it. I mean, the relationship was there on screen, obviously, but it wasn't like drawn out or anything.
It was more of an implied relationship.
Right. It's one of those things where it would be nice to see more on the screen. Regardless of how this comes about, it's going to be fun seeing the characters on the screen, even though we know how everything ends up.
Yeah, I'm still not a fan of the age difference between the actors, but I'm really excited for the show.
Yeah, unfortunately, that happens in Hollywood and has been happening in Hollywood for quite some time. I mean, one of my favorite guilty pleasure John Wayne films is The Train Robbers, and that was the one where he had the age difference relationship. And that was the last time he said, no more. I'm not going to do this anymore. It's got to be age appropriate. So even John Wayne knew that it wasn't going to work all that great.
And speaking of Spider-Man 3, according to express.co.uk, there's rumors that Tom Hardy's Venom and Jared Leto's Morbius have been cast. Again, I think right now it's only rumors. We do know that WandaVision's multiverse is going to be crossing over into the Spider-Man 3 movie. And again, also rumored to be reprising their roles, Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker, Andrew Garfield, Peter Parker, Kirsten Dunst, Mary Jane, Emma Stone, Gwen Stacy, Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. We know that one for sure. Jamie Foxx as Electro, Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, Michael Keaton as the Vulture, and Michael Mando as Scorpio. So we'll see.
I could see why Sony's going down this path, especially after all of the team ups and all the ensemble cast movies that and TV shows that have done well in the past couple of years with superheroes. I kind of understand that. What I don't understand is why Marvel/Disney is allowing so much crossover from their characters into this. I don't understand that relationship because in the end, this is still Disney property. It is not Sony property.
It's still, no, Spider-Man is still Sony. It's still a partnership.
Right. Yes, it's a partnership, but the characters that they bring over are from Disney. And I'm just, it's amazing to me the floodgates that are being let open from Disney to take part in this Sony movie.
They saw how successful Into the Spider-Verse was, and they have Doctor Strange, and they had a whole bunch of time travel and alternate timelines, and they figured, why not do that?
And I think from a business perspective, right now, all of the studios are scared. 2020 was not a very good year for movie studios. And I think there might be a thinking of, well, not Civil War, Endgame was a success, and that was a huge crossover. And Into the Spider-Verse was a huge success. So what if we mash these two up? And I just really hope that they don't overstuff the movie. I feel like they are I feel like people think that it seems like they're promising a lot. I think they might be trying to promise a lot. I'm worried that they are over-promising.
Depends on how long it is. And if it's anything like the CW Arrowverse crossover with Crisis on Infinite Earths, the crossovers that we got, the cameos that we got were literally 5 seconds.
I'm kind of hoping it's something like that because, again, the focus of the movie should be on Peter Parker, not the Bill. Like, I've had a problem with movies lately where it seems like movies like to throw in one too many villains. You saw this with Spider-Man 2 in the Andrew Garfield version. You saw this recently with Wonder Woman 84, in my opinion. When you divide an audience's focus like that, I think you are doing the story and the characters a disservice.
I can see too many villains. Even Endgame, the main villain was Thanos, and the focus was always on Thanos, even though there were other villains involved. And you had people that were crossing in between the heroes and the villains. Loki and what's her name? The sister from Gamora's sister.
Nebula.
I was going to say Nova, and I knew that was wrong. Nebula, going back and forth. So you had that, but Thanos was always the bad person, and that they were trying to save what he had put in motion. But when you get, something like Wonder Woman, which we haven't talked about. This is a Marvel podcast, but we all obviously saw Wonder Woman when it came out. Thank you very much, HBO and HBO Max, Warner Brothers, for doing that, by the way. It was entertaining. It was nice to sit down and watch it, but there was just so many. That's a whole podcast on its own to go over what was good and what was bad about it, because there were good stuff about it. But
overall, I liked the movie, but I also have a lot of complaints about the movie.
Same here.
All right. So we're all in agreement. That's great. All right, that's it for the news this week. So what we're going to do is we've decided that we need to charter a flight out of Montreal and just get out of here. All right, 2020 is over. We're into 2021. I want to thank you, everybody, for listening to our episodes talking about Daredevil, especially since there is a Charlie Cox rumor in Spider-Man. That would be cool, even if it's a 5-second cameo. So thank you very much for sticking with us there.
Thank you very much to all of our listeners. We hope we were able to make your 2020 a little stressful. And if in the future, whenever you're listening to this, watching this, whatever, if it is a stressful time for you, then we hope that we can be a little bit of a distraction.
I think you meant to say a little bit less stressful.
Less stressful?
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. What SP said there. Okay.
Yes, thank you to everyone who's listening, downloading, interacting with us on Twitter or Discord. I'm a Discord person. And just thank you.
All right. So thank you, everybody else. We will see you in 1 week with our recording of the finale in Daredevil, and then it's off to WandaVision.
For those who are listening, SP just did like goggle hand motions.
Yeah, over my glasses. All right. See you, everybody, next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to gonnageek.com and you will find all our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com, where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod, found at incompetech.com, and also artists on pond5.com and audiojungle.net. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual hosts and do not represent Stargate Pioneer Productions, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D, or Gonna Geek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the property of the Disney Corporation, Marvel Studios, and ABC. No infringement is intended.
Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is copyright 2013 through 2021.